So welcome everyone to our webinar today on Banking Basics, Advancing Your Financial Literacy for Older Adults. We are so pleased to again partner with the ABC's Literacy Canada to host this webinar. We partnered a couple weeks ago with the ABC's Financial Literacy of Canada to host a prior event which was very educational and engaging for our older adults audience that participated on understanding AI. So we hope you learn a lot about banking and the financial literacy today for our presentation. Before we begin, I do want to provide our land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that we gather on the traditional territory of a number of First Nations, one that is based in honor and deep respect. We seek a new relationship with the original peoples of this land, one that is based in honor and deep respect. I apologize. Just a few webinar logistics for today. I am just letting people know for communication that all microphones will be muted for participants today, but we do encourage your communication and engagement through our chat box. If you have any comments or suggestions, I know Christina may be asking questions. Please post those in that chat box so we can have an engaging conversation. If you have a specific question that you would like to ask our speaker today, please post that in the Q&A box. I know sometimes we get going with our chat box and we post the questions there. So I may remind you if people do that just to post it in the Q&A because we don't want to miss your important questions that you have. As I mentioned, we have our ASL interpreters with us today. We have both Denise and Aaron, so they'll be switching on and off during the presentation today. If you want to change your view, you can go to the little grid box at the top of your screen and choose the preference for you to view this presentation today. And again, as a reminder, we do have the option for you to turn on the closed captioning. As with all our sessions, we do appreciate your feedback. At the end of the presentation today, there'll be a pop-up webinar or pop-up link to go to our survey. And we'll also send you an email with the survey link to provide provide your feedback if you're not able to do it right away after the session. We are recording the session. It will be posted on our website probably tomorrow, along with any of the links or documents that are shared with you today during the session. Just as a reminder, this is a public forum when we do our presentations, so we do respect your privacy and confidentiality. If you have a specific question or issue that you would like to address, please reach out to our office. We'd be more than happy to assist you in a confidential manner. And for those who may be joining us for the first time, just to let you know what our vision and mission is for our organization. We really work hard to ensure that all seniors in Ontario are free from ageism and abuse, and human rights are advanced, protected, and respected. And we are funded through the Ministry of Seniors and Accessibility, and we implement the Ontario's strategy to combat elder abuse. Please look at our website at eapon.ca and you'll find numerous resources and information on elder abuse, including financial protection of financial mistreatment and protecting your rights. You'll find lots of content there. And again, our contact information if you're interested in reaching out to us for support, which I will also provide at the end of the presentation today. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce our speaker today, Christina Genua, and she is the Senior HR Advice Partner at TD Bank Group. She is a individual who's been working in the banking industry for many years. She has a Bachelor of Commerce majoring in Human Resources from Humber College. She volunteers with the ABCs of Financial Literacy of Canada and does many of these presentations. So I welcome you, Christina, to provide your presentation today. So thank you so much for joining us and taking the time to share your knowledge with us.
Perfect. Thanks, Ryan. Okay, so I'm just going to share my screen first and foremost here. Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here with you this afternoon, and I see some of you are from on the West Coast, so good morning to you. Today we're going to be speaking about money matters, and we're focusing on banking basics. As Rayanne mentioned, if there's questions along the way, please don't hesitate to comment in the chat box. Rayanne is going to monitor that for me, so if there's questions, then we can absolutely get to those. And if there's questions that unfortunately I'm not able to answer, then I'll hopefully be able to direct you in the right direction. Okay. So today we'll be specifically learning how to understand your bank account, knowing your rights related to bank accounts and cashing checks, choosing which bank is right, which bank account is right for you, as well as how to keep yourself and your money safe in your daily life and online. Okay. Also, so we do have our ASL interpreters with us this afternoon. So thank you to both of you for being here with us. I'll just leave the code up just in case you would like to scan that as well. Just wait 10 seconds or so. Okay. All right, so let's get started. So our most common types of bank accounts, checking and savings. So let's get into a little bit more specific keywords. So a bank takes cash deposits, they lend money and provide other money services. So we can set up a bank account at any bank. Um, and so a bank account is specifically used for a safe place to put your money and help you save it. Some types of accounts, as I mentioned, and most common ones are the savings and checking. So the main definition of a savings account is an account where you earn interest on the money you put into an account. A checking account is used for day-to-day activities. So you can write checks, you pay bills, and do other personal ta money tasks. So this pays little or no interest at all. Typically, a checking account would pay no interest. I think it again depends on the bank that you are with as well. So when we talk about or think about our money and your personal life and your family, where do you go when you need money to or have a check to cash? So typically, if you have a bank account, you would likely go to the bank. Some may they probably want a bank account. So if they knew more about them, there are maybe individuals who are unfamiliar with the banking system and so may not have a bank account. And there are other options available, such as a cash store, where they can go and cash checks as well. Or none of the above may apply here. So maybe we'll just use the chat function at this time to, if you'd like to respond as to which option you would choose at this time, as to where you would go if you needed to cash, if you need money or have a check to cash. I'm going to pull up the chat on this side.
Some people are saying banks, online.
Yeah.
Yep, the bank.
Most common would be like visiting your local branch to cash a check to cash a check or if you need money for sure. Okay, great. Thank you all for participating. Okay. So some more money words that we have. A cash store, sometimes called payday lenders. Most frequently, there's like Money Mart, Cash Money, so stores of that nature, where they cash checks or lend money for a fee. So when you do go into any of those cash they will charge you to cash a check. or take out a loan. So the fee is often much more than you would pay at a bank. And the money you get from a cash store is called a cash advance or a payday loan. So this is not, so this is money that you have to pay back at a higher interest rate than what a bank um, would provide you the loan or advance for. Okay, so let's get talking about it. When you talk about money or go to a bank, do you feel uncomfortable? Um, Maybe we'll start with that initial question. We want to get some responses in the chat going.
So maybe people can answer, yeah, yes or no. Get some people
Yeah,
are saying no.
that's great. And is there anyone who might think people would feel uncomfortable when they talk about money? Or why do you think people might feel uncomfortable when they talk about money?
So some people are saying they don't know how to ask the question. It
Okay.
depends on who you talk with, which is really important, I
Yeah,
guess.
valid valid
Yeah.
point.
Early education in schools about financial matters would be important.
Okay.
It's a personal issue.
Absolutely.
Not sure if bank policies, language barriers could be also an issue.
Okay. All great points and all valid for sure. Um, there's many reasons, and a lot of you have stated those as well. So that's they're all valid, and I agree with each and every one of them. What do you think might help people to feel more comfortable when talking about money? So I think someone said it earlier, maybe more education um, on money. Yeah, perfect. School education, finances, absolutely. Yeah, all great points. Um, so to be able to speak in their language. So that's actually a really good point. One thing I can say about TD, for example, is when we do have customers who come in and um, they like the financial representative is does not speak the customer's language, we can call a line to have an interpreter. Okay, bank doesn't seem helpful, always in a rush. I think it depends on, I mean, I can't speak to every situation, but I think it depends on, what you're scheduling an appointment for. Um, but making sure that you get all your questions asked and answered accordingly. Okay. So we'll move on to the next question of how do you feel when you talk about money? I think again, I think for myself, it can be a very personal topic to discuss. And I think it also depends on who you're discussing it with, um, is key, but would love to hear from the group. Yeah, Carla, it depends on level of trust. Ross, you've got more education than them. So do not any longer. I am secure in my financial knowledge. Perfect. Susan, you got your parents helped you understand finances at a young age, so you're very comfortable. And you pass this on to your children. That's great. So giving more seniors time to ask questions. I also think it's important having, a basic knowledge of what it is you're going in asking for, and understanding and being able to facilitate or engage in that conversation with the bank representative. Um, and their role in the branches is to ensure that the right product and or service um, is provided to the customer for the right reason. Okay. And and how do we feel when we visit a bank? Okay, so we're talking about some lineups and fees, interest charges. Ross is saying online only. I mean, I can't say I disagree with you. There are absolutely a lot of things that the we can online these days. However, there are also other things more complex that do require us to visit a branch. So there are at least there's different options for people to work with, and obviously to whatever they're comfortable with as well. Okay, so sorry, Patricia, you're saying that is my point. Sometimes we need help framing our questions because we don't understand why we need help. How do we navigate our concern? I'm not sure. Like, I think like the question is more about how you want to, like, you're not sure how to go in and what questions to ask. Um, I think that's being like in research, like researching what you're actually looking to do before going into the bank to do to ask for what that is, so that you have some basic knowledge on what it is you're asking for first, would be my recommendation. Okay. Okay. And then how do we feel when we use online banking? So I know, Ross, you said you use online banking only these days. Um, I too use online banking. So it's quick, easy, convenient. Anyone else have any thoughts on online banking? Secure. Yeah, so some are uncomfortable using it due to the risk of online hackers or scamming. So with online banking, it's important that you are aware of what is happening in your bank accounts and online, and if there's something that feels that you know if someone is calling or asking you to sign into your online banking or be or use or asking for passwords or anything of that nature, um, the banks will never call you to ask for passwords or anything like that. So just be cautious in who you are providing information to, because it can be very easy for, scammers or hackers to get into your accounts, if they have the right information. Okay. So lots going on in the chat. I'm sorry, I can't keep up with all the comments. Um, so easy unless you have an issue and have to try to contact a human being. Um, so all the banks should have for example, TD has like easy line. And that's, you can actually through your online bank app to get into one of our contact center specialists to support you. ASPA, thank you for using the branches so that you help the colleagues across Canada to stay in a job. Okay. All right, so we're going to move on to the next slide here. Um, okay, so we're going to go through a scenario. So we have Tenzin. So Tenzin gets a tax credit in the mail from the government of Canada, and he's short on cash and requires some money. So he has a there's a bank account, a bank open across the street, but Tenzin doesn't think he can cash his check there because he doesn't have an account at that bank. So Tenzin has gone to a cash store before to get a cash advance and decides to visit the store again. Okay. So with Tenzin, um, does anyone think otherwise? Like, could he have gone into the bank to open an account or to cash the check? Just gonna open the chat here. Yeah. So yes, you are all correct. So because it's a government of Canada check, he can even though he doesn't have an account at that bank, he can cash the check. However, there is a maximum amount. I want to say, don't quote me, but I want to say it's $1,500 that he can cash a government of Canada check at a bank where he doesn't have an open account. Alternatively, yes, he can go to a cash advance store, a cash store to cash the check as well. However, they will absolutely charge him a fee for that. Okay. So let's talk about some interest in percentages. So when we borrow money, you have to pay back the amount you borrowed plus a little extra. So when we talk about interest, interest is a fee someone pays to borrow money. So when we get a loan or use credit, you need to pay back the amount you borrowed plus interest. So the amount of interest is usually shown as a percentage of the money borrowed. When you put money in a savings account, the bank pays you interest. So the money word on percentages. So percentages are parts of 100. Another way to say percentage is out of 100. So for example, we have 10% equals 10 out of 100, 50% equals 50 out of 100, and 89% equals 89 out of 100. So let's get into some math here. So if we start off with the percentage of 500, we borrowed the original amount, the initial amount we borrowed was $100. That gives us 50,000. Okay. If we take that 50,000 and we divide it by 100, so if we borrow $100 from a cash store and the cost of the loan is 500%, you'll pay $500 in fees. So from the original amount we initially borrowed, which was $100, we've now had to pay an additional $500 in fees, and our total loaned amount is 600. Is there any questions on that? Everyone follow me? Okay. Okay, so let's use the chat. And so if the loan costs us 600%, Again, we've started off with the initial borrowed amount of $100. However, the loan is costing us 600. What is going to be our total cost? You can throw your answers up in the chat. Ross, those are shark loan rates. I mean, I don't know what the cash store rates are these days, but in this example, yes, they're quite high. Does anyone have an answer? If our loan costs us 600%? Okay, let's do it together because I don't see any answers coming up. So the percentage is 600. Maybe I can write on this. Let me see. No, okay, that's okay. Oh, I've got Christo, 700. Okay. Anybody get anything different? So 700 is the correct answer. And how we got that is, so our borrowed rate is 600. The original amount we borrowed was $100, which would give us a total of 60,000. 60,000 divided by 100 is 600. And that's our cost of the fee. That's our total cost of fees. So when we bring down the 600 to our total cost of fees, plus the original borrowed amount of 100, we have 700. Okay. Thank you for everyone's participation along the way. All right, so what's our situation? Again, so there's no right or wrong answers here. This is about you and your situation. Um, so you can answer these. You don't have to answer these in the chat as these can be personal. So I keep money in a savings account and I add to it whenever I can. You could just answer in your head. I have a checking account and I use it. And I understand the fees my bank charges for different things. Okay. So let's do some true or false. A Canadian bank must cash your Government of Canada check for free, even if you're not a customer. True or false? Want to just answer in the group chat? True. Yeah. So we did talk about this earlier. All right. You're all paying attention. That's good. All right. So a Government of Canada check is a check issued to you from the federal government. So here are some examples of those types of checks. So we've got employment insurance, old age security, the GST, HST credit, and a Canada Child Benefit, and an income tax refund. So yes, these can be cashed at a bank. Thank you, Charlene. So with proper ID, you do have to present identification. You just can't walk into a branch and ask for a check to be deposited without the proper identification. Alternatively, uh, Ross, you're correct. Direct deposit is also available for Government of Canada checks. Okay. Is there anywhere else that we haven't necessarily spoken about where um, that some of you make cash Government of Canada checks. So, Sima, I think so. You're asking, is this all the same in Quebec? It shouldn't be any different in terms of being able to cash Government of Canada checks at a branch, again with ID. Okay. Okay, sorry. Some of you are saying so. Um, Government offices. I'm not sure about that. Um, Credit union. So yeah, credit union would be again like another form of a cash store or a bank. Different types of credit unions. What types of provincial government checks are you referring to? Because I'm not like if it's a Government of Canada check that's come from them specifically, then like if we go back, these are some of the examples that you would be able to cash at a bank with proper identification and up to a certain amount. What I would say is if you're unsure, you can always call your local bank or a bank that maybe you don't even bank with to confirm whether they would cash the check for you or not. I just don't want to give anyone any incorrect information. I also have not worked in a branch, for some time, so I don't have all those specific details. Okay. So some of our money rights. So you do have the right to cash your Government of Canada check for free. You can cash a Government of Canada check for free at any bank, even if you don't have a bank account there. And you can cash your Government of Canada check at any bank in Canada that has a customer service representative. So there are some banks out there that do not have like um, a front line, and so those types of banks would not be able to cash the Government of Canada checks. Um, and like I mentioned earlier, so um, if the Government of Canada check is more than $1,500, the bank can decide not to cash it. And that's only if you don't have a bank account, like if you don't bank at that bank. So, for example, if you go into an RBC, but you don't bank there and your Government of Canada check is for $3,000, they may advise that they are unable to cash that check for you. And David, I think you're saying that it's now been increased to 1750. Okay. Again, I wouldn't, I don't know 100%, so I would just make sure that you are like check with the bank, with your bank specifically. Okay. So, who is a customer service representative? And so this is a bank worker who can help you open a bank account or cash a check. Um, we have actually at TD changed the name of a customer service representative on our front lines to, um, back in the day they were tellers, and some people may still call them tellers, but we have them as customer service, customer experience associates. Okay, and just I guess some food for thought here. So two surveys asked Canadians about using cash stores. Almost a third of the people cashed Government of Canada checks at cash stores and paid big fees. That's one out of every three people. But they could have cashed those checks for free at any bank. So a lot of people just don't realize that they're able to cash the checks at a bank, um, even though they don't have a bank account there. So just keep that in mind. So QPP is the equivalent of CPP in like Ontario and other provinces. So yes, you can cash those checks at a bank as well. It's a government of Canada check. Okay. All right. So let's talk about how we cash a check. So some of the questions. So what do I need to cash my government of Canada check bank? So a lot of you have said earlier in the chat, so bring one piece of photo ID and the check to the customer service representative. And then if you don't have photo ID, so you can still cash your Government of Canada check by showing two other pieces of ID. And then what if I don't have if I don't have two pieces of other pieces of ID? Um, so they're saying that someone can vouch for you by telling the bank that you are the person whose name is on the check. The bank needs to know this person. Um, this answer here, like I would probably say like the bank representative would really need to know the person and have um a very strong like relationship with them as a very um like high value customer or someone who goes in quite regularly in order for that person to be able to vouch for you. Your best bet is to ensure that you do have your photo identification on you to cash any sort of government check without a bank account. Okay, so moving on. Um, so what can make it hard to get and keep some kinds of ID? And then what kinds of ID do you and your group members have? So we can make a list. Um, and then could these kinds of ID be used to cash a check at a bank? So when we talk specifically about photo ID, it's a piece of identification that has your photo and your signature on it. So for example, a driver's license or a passport are examples of photo ID. So Patricia, so yes, if you have a power of attorney, they can um, they can cash checks for you. So they're acting on your behalf. So again, a piece of identification must have a photo on a photo ID on it in order to be considered acceptable to the banks when cashing any sort of Government of Canada check. Um, so some of you are asking on specific types of ID and whether it would be acceptable. So I'm not going to answer each one specifically. What I would recommend is you reach out or visit the like your local branch to confirm whether that ID would be acceptable. Okay, so moving on. Kinds of ID. So some types of ID that we have with photo. So your Canadian driver's license, a passport, a certificate of Indian status card, a permanent resident card, and then other kinds of ID that will not have photo on it, but may be used as like secondary ID if you don't have a photo one. Which you would need two of. So a social insurance number, so your SIN card, a Canadian birth certificate, old age security card with your SIN on it, a debit card or bank card that has your signature on it, a certificate of Canadian citizenship or a certificate of naturalization, and or an IRCC form. So typically an IRCC form is for those who are on like study or work permits. Okay. Okay. So if you don't have ID, um, I mean, it would be difficult to obviously cash a check. But if there's someone, so they're saying, um, ask someone at your local legal clinic or community center if they know about an ID clinic that can help you. And you can also try searching online for ID clinics in the name of your city. Okay, so we're going to chat about Riley. So Riley has two children. She receives a monthly Canada Child Benefit check, and she wants to start a savings account for her children. So she plans to deposit her Canada Child Benefit check into the savings account each month. She doesn't have any extra money right now, but she thinks that she has to wait to open the savings account until she has some extra money to put into it. Do you think that Riley has to wait to open the savings account? Uh, Even though she doesn't have money to put into it at this time. So she doesn't. Um, she can open the savings account at any time and decide when it meets her lifestyle to and to include to deposit money into there. Okay, so no. So the answer was she doesn't need to wait. Um, So let's say that Riley doesn't have a job right now. Does that mean that the bank won't let her open a savings account? No. So regardless of whether she has a job or not, she can still open the savings account. So let's imagine that Riley has had money struggles before and had to declare bankruptcy. So does that mean that the bank won't let her open an account now? So that would depend. And so for this answer, I would recommend that if anyone is in this situation, that you speak to the bank to confirm whether they would open the account for you or not. Um, and most likely they would ensure that everything has been paid off before even moving forward. Okay, so our money rights under the Canadian law, you have the right to open a bank account. You can open an account even if you don't have a job. You don't have money to put into the account right away, or you have declared bankruptcy before. Okay, so do we want to use the group chat just to um, throw out some ideas on what steps Riley will need to take to open up her bank account based on what we've learned? Yeah, come with ID. Yeah, she doesn't necessarily need the work history because, as we mentioned, she doesn't need to have a job. Um, but they may ask for previous employment. So, yeah. Yeah, so as long as she has her ID coming into the branch, um, and answers some questions, the customer service representative will be able to support Riley in opening an account for her and potentially her kids. All right. So earlier on in the presentation, we spoke about the types of bank accounts. So we spoke about the savings account. So this account is to help you save money. You will earn interest on this, on the money that you put into this account. Then we also have a checking account. So again, like I mentioned earlier, this is like your day-to-day transactions. So you can write checks on this account, you can pay bills, you can do e-transfers, you can, um, when you're at a store using your debit card, the money comes out of your checking. So you won't earn very much or any interest on this on the money that you have in a checking account. So our little friend here is sharing with us that bank accounts are products like anything else that you might buy. So shop around for them by looking at different banks, compare the perks and prices for each bank's types of accounts, and make sure you're getting the best account for you. So a lot of the banks have several like options when choosing a checking account and or a savings account. So make sure that you're not paying fees on an account that may not be working in your favor. Okay, so does anyone want to share what kind of bank account may be best for them and why? And if you're not comfortable, that's okay as well. There's many types of bank accounts out there, so um, or does anyone want to share one that has worked for them that they would recommend? Yeah, so RSPs and TFSA, they're not checking or savings account necessarily. Um, well, more of a savings, I would say, but a different type of savings. Yeah, so great. Education savings plan. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, thank you. So, talking about low cost bank accounts, so many of the low cost bank accounts would include as many free deposits as you like, a debit card, a book of checks, a statement or bank book that shows your transactions each month, a small number of free debit transactions per month. So some banks include 8 to 15 free transactions, and some of them can be in person with a customer service representative. So this will depend, in all honesty, on the bank that you bank with and the available options of their bank accounts. So Velma, so you're saying bank accounts really depend on how much you use your money. The trick is to be smart with how you use your accounts. Absolutely. And just knowing what your account offers you so that you're not paying additional fees. Okay. So some money words. So transaction. When we talk about transactions, this is when money moves into or out of your bank account. Okay. And so a transaction can be um, a transaction that like a customer service representative has done at the branch. That would be considered a transaction. Or, if you're using your card at the Shoppers Drug Mart down the street, that's a transaction. A debit card is a card that lets you pay for things electronically directly from your bank account. So, for example, you can buy something at a store. So, like I just said, if you're at your local Shoppers Drug Mart, you can you would use your debit card, or you're buying groceries, things like that. And that leads us into using or a debit transaction. So this is when anytime you take money out of your account, so for example, writing a check, using a bank machine, or paying with a debit card at a store. Those are all debit transactions. Any questions on these money words? Okay. E-transfers? Yeah, e-transfers are typically, it depends on your bank, I would say. So sometimes there's a fee for an e-transfer, um, and they would be some banks do consider them as transactions. So it's money, again, a transaction when money moves into or out of your bank account. So an e-transfer, um, taking money out of your account would be considered a transaction. Okay. So what else can we do at a bank? We can get an account statement. So this would be a list of all your transactions you made. Um, in a month. So it shows how much money you have, how much you deposited, how much you spent or withdrew. It also shows any interest or fees. You can get your account statement in the mail or online. And then a direct deposit. So direct deposit is when you get paid directly into your bank account instead of getting a paper check. So for example, you could get your paycheck or your Government of Canada check payments direct deposited into your bank account. And then online banking. So you can use the internet to see how much money is in your account, pay bills, and direct and deposit checks into your account. So sometimes you can also do this using a bank's app on your phone or tablet or desktop. And then we'll talk about more about online banking later. International money wire money transfer or wire payment. So this lets you send money to family and friends in other countries. Credit cards. So when you use your credit card, the bank loans you money to buy things. If you don't pay the money back in full every month, you'll pay interest on the total amount you owe. So it is important just to make sure you're not spending more than what you can or need on your credit card. Loans for cars and homes. So you buying a car or home, this can be a big investment. So many people take out a loan from the bank to help them make these big purchases. And usually you will make monthly payments until you've paid off the loan and interest. So how do we choose a bank? So there's a lot of great questions on that we can reference when we're trying to choose a bank. Some of these questions that we can ask ourselves is, does that bank have branches and bank machines near my home, school, or work? What are the bank's hours? What are the fees for the account I want? How much interest will I earn on my savings account? Can I write checks? And do I need to pay a fee to write a check? And does it cost me money to order checks? Will I pay extra if I use a different bank's machine and how much? Are the bank's customer service representatives friendly and willing to answer my questions? And can I get information about my account online? And then lastly, is there an app for online banking? So these are all great questions that you can reference if you're looking for a bank to bank with or a new bank. Okay, so when choosing a bank, if we just want to quickly throw in some important, it says, which three services are most important for you? Okay, line, paying bills, customer service, hours, courteous, security. Perfect. All great. All great items to think about. And if you're looking, for a bank to start banking with, or, a new bank, um, once what you can think about is some of the questions that you would want to ask. Okay. So let's get into online banking. So here are some things that we can do with online and mobile banking. So we can check our bank account activity and balance. We can pay our bills. We can move money between your bank accounts, and we can send money to other people using e-transfers. Um, so some of the money words here, we have our online banking. So this is when we use our bank account on a computer connected to the internet. So that would be on like a desktop, right? Um, Mobile banking, we can either use on a tablet, smartphone to do banking, and we would use the bank's app. Alternatively, you can use your internet browser on your smartphone as well, or on your tablet to log into your bank account. And then an e-transfer is when you send money to someone else over the internet using a computer, a tablet, or a smartphone. So at this time, I'm unable to show, sorry, Carla, I know you're asking how to show how an e-transfer works. I don't have the capability to do that here today, but you can call your bank and they can walk you through that process. So what are some of the reasons you might prefer to use online banking? And then what are some of the reasons you might prefer to visit the bank in person? And does one of these options seem better for you? Yep. So it can be faster online. Um, it is more convenient online. But as we discussed earlier, we just want to, use caution when using online banking, um, uh, you know, to ensure that you've like maximized your security. So phishing scams. So a scam is an illegal plan to trick people and steal from them. Phishing is a scam that uses email, phone calls, or text messages. So phishing scams try to steal personal information from you, and they usually pretend to be from someone you trust, like a family member or your bank. There are times where, like even on the news, or there's like 2020 episodes where, um, you know, individuals are called and like they're saying the other person on the line is saying that it's their grandson or granddaughter, and they are stuck somewhere and they need some money, and they try and get information from the person that they're calling. So just be careful when you're answering any sort of questions on the phone to somebody that you don't know. So here's an example of a phishing email. So it says it's coming from the local bank at gr564.com. I think that's an alert right there. Um, the subject is action required, information incomplete. And they're sending this at 12:56 a.m., which is also very suspicious. So, dear customer, this email is to inform you that your online banking profile with local bank is incomplete. Click on the link below and enter your banking password to complete your profile. And they give you a link. Sincerely, local bank. Um, so when we have emails of this nature, where the email seems suspicious, and where it's coming from. The time of day that it's being sent is also very suspicious, and there is spelling errors. Also, a bank would never ask you to provide your banking password. So these are all reasons why this would be a phishing email. So how can we tell if the email is phishing? So sometimes phishing emails don't use your name, which the one above did not. Phishing emails often have mistakes in them, which the one above did, like words that are spelled incorrectly. Phishing emails usually ask you for your for pers sorry, phishing emails usually ask you for personal information, which that one did as well. Phishing emails might send you to a website where they steal your personal information. So if we were to click on this and submit our information, it would absolutely steal our personal information, and then this group or person would have access to our banking details. And phishing emails try to look like they're really coming from your bank or another trusted source. So just be cautious. Can we think of any other clues that an email is phishing? And have you ever gotten a phishing email or call? Yeah, yeah, all great comments in the chat. Okay. So, continuing on phishing scams, here is an email from the Canada Revenue Agency. Um, so this one, it looks legitimate. However, we've got some spelling errors already that I can identify here. It's coming from agency instead of agency. So they've spelt it AGA instead of AGE for agency. But it is coming in the middle of the afternoon, so maybe not as suspicious as some others may be. But it's advising us, dear taxpayer, so after review of your 2018 tax forms, we have determined that you are eligible for a tax refund of $362 and change. So to claim this refund, let's fill out this form. Um, I would not be clicking on this link. Uh, if the government owes us money, um, they will definitely not be sending you an email to be clicking a form to collect your money. They'll either, depending on whichever way you have it set up with the government, they would either send you the check or direct deposit. So here's what you should do if you think an email is a phishing scam. So don't reply to the email, don't share any information with the sender, and don't open any attachments or click on any links in the email. You want to search online for the organization's phone number, contact the organization and ask if they sent you an email. You'll want to mark the email as spam, and then you can also delete the email. So all great tips in managing phishing scams. Okay. Um, so ways to use online banking safely. Only use your bank's website or app for online banking, and don't tell anyone your password, your username or password. So let's make online banking safer. So you'll want to make a strong password. So it's important to create a strong password when you sign up for online and mobile banking. A weak password is easy for someone else to guess. So a strong password would be very hard to guess. In order to create a strong password, you'll want to use numbers, small letters, capital letters, as well as symbols. All right. So, is there anything new that you learned about banking that you didn't already know? Was there anything that may have surprised you today? Um, Hopefully, some of you are feeling more comfortable about using a bank. And is there anything else that you'd like to learn that would increase your confidence about banking? Maybe we can get some responses if anyone has anything. If not, we can we're almost near the end here. Okay, we'll move on then. Um, oh, sorry. There we go, Sharon. So I didn't know that you can cash a check without having an account up to a certain amount. Yep. Sorry, I think, Sarwari, I think you're asking how to lodge a complaint. You can go to your local branch. I think it depends on what the complaint is. Or all banks should have a customer care department. Yeah. For online banking security, it's important that you visit your branch in order to get more information if you're unsure on using that. Okay. Um, okay, so, oh, sorry. Someone. So if you want to learn more, you can contact the Financial Consumer Agency of Canada when you need help and information about banking. So I'll leave the number up here and the email for a minute or so, and that way you can jot that down. It'll also be in the once you receive this presentation, you'll have it there as well. Okay. So I do want to just thank all of you for joining us this afternoon. And so we have come to the end of our Money Matters Banking Basics workbook. What we learned was different banking options, your rights related to bank accounts and cashing checks, some of the services available from banks, and how to stay safe when banking online. So thanks again.
Thank you so much, Christina. It was great. Just sometimes we forget about some of the basic banking tips and logistics of because technology has changed over the years and as a daily almost. But we do
Mhm.
have a few questions. We have
Sure.
a few minutes. So somebody's just asking for, and I know each bank is different. So in terms of fees and that kind of thing. So, but we
Yeah.
did have a question about free debit transactions per month. Is that up to each bank? And is that also related to online e-transfers? I know you mentioned that earlier in the presentation.
Yeah, so I can only speak for TD because I don't know what the other banks have. And I don't know all um, the ins and outs of the checking accounts. However, when it comes to free tr like debit transactions, most accounts, I think all of our accounts at TD would have a certain number of debit transactions that you're allowed each month. Um, but it's best to ensure that you've confirmed with your, customer service representative, how many that is, or you can go online and look up your specific bank account to confirm how many are eligible each month.
Great, thank you. And somebody was just asking, can you have a savings account without having a checking account, or do you have to have both?
Um, that's a great question. I don't think you need a checking account to have a savings account. Some people may opt to, let's say, for example, bank at TD and have a checking account, but maybe the savings account at Bank of Montreal might be better suited for their needs. And so I don't see a reason why you wouldn't be able to have just a savings account at a bank.
Just keeping on to the sort of online
Hmm.
topic. So, what is more secure, online banking, the app or browser? And somebody's also asking, is using the chat, the little box that shows up on the chat box on a banking website, is that safe to use too?
So I mean, I don't know 100% about the security. I would assume that it is safe. Whether, I think it's important to have all your security on your phone and or your desktop up to date in order to have 100%, to feel 100% secure in using those services. And when it comes to the chat function, it should most of the time it's like automated. So if you really just would like to speak to someone, I just recommend that you call into like the contact center, to actually speak to another human being on the other line in order to ask your specific questions or get support.
Great, thank you. And I think the other option for security is, having that second level of authentication.
Yeah.
That two-step process that people ask you to secure to
Yes.
make sure it's actually yourself. It'll text you to, I think
Yeah.
that's also important for security reasons.
Yeah.
To me, I know that I have that set up, especially with our online banking with your phone, to make
Yeah.
sure it's actually yourself that's chiming in and trying to get into your bank
Absolutely.
account. There's a couple questions about languages. So, people with maybe English is not their first language, what should they do? Is there services or is the expectation for the banks that they will, help accommodate the language barriers that some people may be accommodating or maybe having?
Yeah, so there's a translation line that like our bank folks can leverage in the branch, as well as um, if you're calling in to like the contact center and the representative doesn't speak your language, but you need an interpreter or a translator, you can absolutely ask for one.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
There was a question more specifically about banking, about if they're converting their RSPs to our RIFs. If
Mhm.
is there anything that people really need to be aware of, or any suggestions that you have around either self-directed or mutual funds, that kind of thing?
So I'm not a licensed, I'm not licensed with like mutual funds and things like that and the RSP. So I'm not going to speak on that. What I would recommend is that if you do have questions on you may need or what the concern is, then I would recommend that like you visit your local branch to ask these specific questions.
Great, thank you. Just checking to see if there's any other questions. I know just in terms of your reference to phishing scams and what to
Hmm.
look for, we have done a couple presentations in the past month on AI as well as scams with the Canadian Anti-Fraud Center. So people can go back onto our website under archived webinars and you can review the recordings of those they talk about the things to look for in those emails. The one that the Anti-Fraud Center was
Yeah.
really good, just to find out some of those, scams and phishings
Yeah,
that
they
actually
they're
happen.
they're really good. They're getting, I think, more and more tricky these days. So yeah, always be on the lookout.
Yeah, for sure. Before we wrap up, I might just ask just a couple polling questions, just in terms of I know you've kind of asked this, but just to see if people did learn any new information. I know you asked that, but just sort of
Hmm.
as a question, if they learned some more information about banking. We like to, again with our survey, but just getting some more feedback from people is
Absolutely.
also helpful. Um, I don't see any other sort of questions around banking. Or I think the questions around e-transfers, a lot of people doing, a marketplace finding, things that they just automatically do e-transfers. I do think, you do have to use some caution when you do that. And I know that there has been some scams out there, but just, knowing if it's legit and, just
Yeah.
taking precautions about who you're dealing with. But a lot of people do online banking because of, it's the easiest.
Hmm.
It's of ease, right? So you can pay your bills and that kind of thing. So again, just setting up going into the bank, asking for some assistance, making an appointment, I think is helpful, as you said, Christina, to give so
Yeah,
someone has the time and you have dedicated as opposed to just showing up and expecting someone to, drop everything and maybe help, which they're supposed to do, but to give more personal one-to-one time, I think that sometimes is sometimes helpful to do as well.
absolutely.
Um, I'm just going to ask one other question around the if people would use this information as they go forward in terms of their banking. I think one thing that sometimes we don't think about is the charges that people get with when using other services besides banks, like pay loan.
Yes.
Like yours, that good demonstration that 500% might be a little bit high, but at the same
Yeah.
time, even if it's like 30, 40%, that can add up really quickly over time if you can't pay it off. And we've seen
Yeah.
situations that sometimes hit the media where, people did not expect to be in so much, they just can't seem to get out of debt because the interest rates are so high, they don't even be able to make the basic principal
And
amount.
that's what
That's
happens a lot of the time when cash stores are used, that they're not educated on the interest rates and the additional charges that are incurred. So yeah, that can definitely start to add up if you're not able to pay it right away. And I mean, yes, this example was extremely, um, exaggerated. But to borrow $100 and have to pay $500 on top of that just doesn't make any business sense,
yeah, for
right?
sure. So I'm just going to show just a couple more resources that we have on our website that people might want to look at in terms of protecting your finances. We have a tip sheet that we have. We have a little postcard, just some basic things I think that Christine's already talked about. We do have another webinar coming up on using the chat GBT, navigating that sort of that digital conversation. But we will bring in some of the questions around where people are asking about AI and cookies and those kind of things. The technology piece is very complicated. I know when we do some of these webinars, I learn stuff all the time. So you can sign up for that. That will be the final webinar for the year for us, and then we will start up in January again. And then we've just done our evaluation. So again, if you want to connect with us, you can follow us on Facebook. We post daily, so you can find information and resources and events that are happening. And again, if you'd like to reach out to us, if you have any situations or if you know somebody who might need some assistance or you just have a general question, please reach out. We have a 1-800 number or 1-833 number. It's a toll-free number for people to call as well if you're outside of the GTA region. So thank you again, Christine and our ASL interpreters, and for everybody for sticking with us. I know it was a little bit of a longer session today, so thank you again. And again, if people have other questions, they can always reach out to our organization as well. So thank you very much, and I hope to see everybody, if not the next webinar, or next in December, if not in the new year. So thank you again for your time, Christina, for taking
Thank you.
out of your
Thanks for
busy
having me.
schedule to volunteer for this. Thank you.
Take
Thanks,
care.
everyone.